Welcome to Breeder Syndicate 3.0, the next evolution of the look into counterculture that is Canada. My name is Matthew, owner of Riot Seeds, and this started as a one-man mission for strain history and breeding science. Over time, it's evolved into something bigger, better, and more of a team effort. We will be joined by members of the Canilluminati and other friends throughout the seasons to hear their takes on grow techniques, breeding science, strain history, and more. Our mission is to combat the narrative that corporate cannabis and seed posers are obfuscating for their own financial benefit. Welcome to the underground. We are the Syndicate.
The videos on this channel, the Breeder Syndicate 3.0, are compliant with YouTube policies and does not depict or promote any sales or distribution of any substances. These videos do not violate any YouTube community guidelines and is intended to educate the public about historical and scientific aspects of hemp plants. This video does not promote, idolize, nor glorify any illegal activities or unsafe consumption of regulated substances. We are not doctors or lawyers. This should be super obvious. With that said, some people need to be reminded about this. Do not take anything we say as medical or legal advice of any sort. We are just the best at what we do. Live with it. All content is copyright of the Breeder Syndicate 3.0, 2024, Section 107 of the Fair Use Act. Thank you for your support.
Has the Schedule 1, Schedule 3 stuff going on right now where it's, kind of lying in both areas? Has any of that affected how you guys do business? Is that something you're paying more attention to specifically for any reason?
No, not directly yet. I think some ideas that I've heard floating around are like, okay, if it's Schedule 3, then it has to have, proven medicinal value, and maybe you can, find DNA markers related to these plants with proven medicinal value. And
that's so wild because
other plants have those markers, then they would maybe be like allowed plants. But
it's
I
so
don't know.
Subjective, like whether something has medicinal value based on brain chemistry.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, how you define that. I mean, there's the colloquial recognition of medicinal value that I think the cannabis community has relied on, but then there's like the whole, FDA researched and clinical trialed products and substances.
I've kept up on a bunch of that, and it's still like the kind of idea that all sativas do this and all indicas do this, and there's no plasticity. They don't take that into account of any kind of clone, like where it's grown, how it expresses. It's been quite interesting to watch science try to work its way into cannabis and not understand sourcing, how that's done, how unreliable some people are for sourcing from, and then taking into account the plasticity, even if you can source the correct clone, and then brain chemistry for whether it's medically viable for that particular individual based on how it was grown. Like there's so many factors that I kind of watch for in a lot of these medical talks, and as things are changing schedule. And when I talk to people in labs or like Dr. Daniela Vergara, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She was working at one of the universities, it's escaping me, it's one of the big ones that was doing cannabis research, and the one thing I realized was that there are a lot of variables that breeders and longtime growers kind of have a better grasp of, but they're not really talking to them. They're talking to the people who are the most marketable, like the guys in High Times that pay for ads, and those are the first people that they're hearing about, so they go to them. And that's, I don't know. It's been an interesting walk, and I didn't know how it would affect your guys's business model.
Yeah.
Do you guys? Can you develop a test for plasticity in a plant?
I I don't know how you would like plasticity and what. Like there's tests for like homozygosity, heterozygosity,
Yeah.
and that like kind of like determines like, and people will refer to that as like how stable the plant line is, or how like reproducible it is, I guess.
That's referring to like a line, and I've seen like Phylos make very bad attempts at this, and they ended up shutting down a lot of their testing. Me and a few, I'll just say, other breeders were submitting, like a mother clone, and then the parent or the siblings thereof, and sometimes S1 siblings, so self siblings, that should be directly related. And what we learned over time was that they were doing short reads, and for some reason couldn't quite tell exactly what was related to what, but they would tell us with much confidence that, oh no, our results are right, you're wrong, you need to resend stuff in. So people spent the money, resent stuff in, made sure, rechecked every source, and made sure all the tags were correct, and kept running into that with the short read versus long read. Is that something that you run into with your work, like in the qPCR testing, short read versus long read?
No, that's all like related to like sequencing and assembling of the results of that sequencing. What we do is we have very specific segments of DNA that we look for.
Yeah.
We're not doing any sequencing or readouts of the plant DNA that we get. We're just seeing, can we detect this marker or not?
Have you considered getting into the sequencing part?
It's not. We haven't had like real demand for that. I think Farmer Freeman like primarily serves like pheno hunters, home growers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we definitely serve breeders and breeders that are big names in like the classical cannabis industry, we could call it, but
Mm-hmm.
not like these firms that are investing millions into plant lines and stuff like that. We refer people to medicinal genomics when they want more information about their plants.
I think that's a good reference. Yeah.
Getting back to, I guess, the switch to Schedule 3, I mean, I think the only impact for us would be if that reduces people's ability to grow, then that'll have a downstream effect on our company. We'll just have fewer customers.
It does seem like that.
I think it's pretty unclear, like what. I think there's just a lot of speculation on like what is going to happen. I don't know if anyone really has like a game plan. Like I don't know. I don't think there's a master conspiracy of like we're taking cannabis this direction. So
it's been interesting.
We're not worried about that as much as we are like the changing definition of hemp and regulation of seeds and stuff like that. That's more directly affecting us.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go. We get a lot of questions about that, and it's just a lot of it's up in the air. It's very wishy-washy, and then finding out that it is still in Schedule 1 and Schedule 3, depending, that's been rather confusing. I think needs to be better defined. But I think it was sold as, like in some people's minds, oh, finally, real legalization. And I don't know that they understand it's going to affect the home grower in a probably more restricted way. in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's more legalization and more rights if you're using Schedule 3 cannabis, which not all cannabis will be
Yeah.
the Schedule 3 cannabis.
Yeah.
That'll only come from producers and dispensaries who, are signed up with the DEA and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. DEA is middlemanning the the sale of bud now, which is
Which
wild.
I think they middleman the sale of all drugs.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense for them to do that if this is how we're going to classify medical cannabis now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but it's the same freaking plant. In most cases, it's the same product from those plants, but it's just an artificial designator of is it legal or not. Are you protected if you use this one or that one?
Yeah, all based on licensing and other regulations.
We do get asked a lot, like with the hemp, I'm just going to call it the hemp ban, are we going to be in business? We started our company before the 2018 Farm Bill, like, we're going to be here long after. That calling that defining hemp with under 0.3% THC, like that was super convenient for us, but it's not necessary for our business. Like we have, like when you submit a sample to us, like most people are sending a small piece of leaf, but there's other ways, like they don't have to submit leaf. They can just send us like an extraction of that leaf, like just the DNA, and we're confident that we'll be able to continue to operate.
Yeah.
Which about that, you provide a smash card that actually does. It's not a complicated task to do the extraction method of testing.
Yeah. So that's one of our avenues of getting the DNA samples to our lab is we have this it's like a relatively thick piece of paper, and you smash the leaf onto that and scrape off any excess like physical material, and then you're just left with like a stained piece of paper that has juice in it. Again, it's from a plant that's not making THC. It's you would never know what plant it is from. And then combine that with the fact that we can test more than just cannabis. Like we have a fig tree sex test. So, there could be ways for us to like kind of combine the two tests and never know what type of plant you're sending us. Yeah, we've thought about this. We're not worried. Our payment processor is not worried.
It's good. And so you do you were talking about figs. What other kind of plants are you testing?
We can do fig and kiwi right now. In the past month, we've been revamping our fig test to get it on the like same platform as the cannabis sex test. So that'll reduce the costs and speed up the turnaround time for that test. So that's great. And then we get inquiries for other plants, usually just specialty fruit trees, persimmon, mulberry. There's a Chinese brayberry. And as we get these inquiries, we kind of figure out like, is it worth our time to pursue this? Do we think there's a big enough market? And yeah, we're always open to those inquiries. I can't guarantee that we will make a test, but we do add it to a list and check up on it every now and then. some of these plants like fig, it'll take years for it to show its sex, so it's pretty big savings, huge time saving. But yeah, I don't know. We're actively exploring this because, our lab isn't, unique to cannabis. It's just a general molecular biology lab. So we have these tools. We can use them for a lot of different purposes, and we want to. Ideally, we'd have somebody in here like 24 hours a day, just running whatever tests people are interested in. Yeah.
Do you think there's a future where there is kind of like a at home, like a pregnancy test type of thing for, even like a simplified is there a Y, type of deal?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like at home test kits. None of them are as simple as a pregnancy test. They all require some amount of like equipment and preparation and processing. And because of that, like the accuracy can vary. It's generally less accurate than sending it to a lab like ours where we're running qPCR. These at-home test kits for sex or hop latent viroid, they generally are more susceptible to like contamination and is the leaf surface, has it been sprayed with any kind of foliars or IPMs, like that could affect the test. And you're just getting less data from those tests. So like a negative result from that test, you could interpret that as the sample's clean, but it could also just be that the test didn't work. And so because of that, like, we don't recommend it for most people. And also, I mean, we try to price our in-lab testing, low enough that it doesn't really make sense to like buy all that equipment and, the upfront costs of trying to get your own thing set up.
Were you asking about testing baby sex, Screw?
No, like a
like the sex of a child? That'd be interesting.
No, of plants, but at an at-home version where it's just a positive or negative for, I don't know, something.
Yeah, like that exists. Like I know Toomey has a product called like Toomey Glow for in-house testing of hop latent viroid. Medicinal Genomics has their UPCR system. We've used that. We were running that commercially for a little bit, but it just has these like pitfalls that we felt like weren't. There's just better options out there for commercial testing and testing of a wide variety of samples.
Okay, get back to the baby testing because now that just triggered it. Is there a way to test the sex of a baby based on the technology you have there?
Yeah, there's. I just went through this in the past 18 months. So I have a 1-year-old now, but when we were pregnant, they do DNA screening on the fetus to determine sex and all sorts of different genetic risk factors, related to human development, and that helps you determine the safety of your pregnancy and things like that. So yeah, like that's generally like these genetic panels that your doctor orders for pregnant people will have like a sex add-on. Some families request it, others like to be surprised. we did it. It was cool. It was similar to the service I offer. We got an email like your results are ready. Click through, and we found out that we're having a boy. And I know there's one brand that you do it at home and send a sample to a lab rather than like going to LabCorp and doing a whole blood draw or whatever. They're called Peekaboo, and I don't know how much it costs. Probably just $100 or so, and yeah, you can determine the sex of your unborn.
That is really cool. Yeah, I don't know why that I twisted that question into that, but yeah, that's fascinating.
No, it's cool. So companies like Peekaboo, Ancestry, there's a company for like cat DNA called Base Paws. We kind of consider ourselves like in the same realm as those companies. You know, we all test different organisms, but essentially it's the same. It's like you take some kind of DNA sample or tissue sample and send it to a lab and get results based on that. And so we look at those companies to help get ideas on like sample submission methods and results delivery methods, and it's neat being in this industry.
I'm glad you told me about Base Paws. I just got a kitten, and that could actually be really helpful.
Yeah, it's super cool. I got it for my brother's cat for Christmas, and he determined that his cat is a Maine Coon, which was pretty obvious.
I love Maine Coons. Yeah, the furry paws and the ears and everything.
Yeah, but it gave him like health data about his cats and like or his cat, and you know what risk factors his cat has, and it's just kind of a fun thing to do. We did it for our dog to understand like what breed our dog was. Yeah, they're cool tests, and and normalizing, science and making science accessible and useful to people, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for that. Okay, Screw, what you got?
So what are you guys focusing, like where are you guys trying to like refine and progress? You had said that you wanted to get the other sex testing kits up to the same level of accuracy and whatnot that you guys have with cannabis. What other areas are you trying to focus on or trying to grow towards?
So we're always fielding inquiries for plant types that we don't already have tests for, and if we can easily develop a test for those, that's great. We like if you Google search like plant sex testing, we're pretty high up there, and so we end up getting people like sending us leaves of plants that aren't cannabis, and maybe they just didn't understand that they need to specify what they're sending in. So ultimately, like, we'd like to be able to accept all sorts of different tissues. There's always like new pathogens popping up and being identified as potential threats to cannabis. So we're always looking into like new targets for that. Septoria is one that we're thinking of adding on for hemp and cannabis. Understanding like limits of detection. Like, can we like how sensitive can the hop latent viroid test get? Should we start running the HLVD tests on seedlings? And maybe that'll prevent like issues later on. So we're pulling out like a bunch of, basically I found customers who had positive hop latent viroid tests, and if they had tested seedlings, you know, a year or 18 months prior to that, I'm curious if any of those seedlings had hop latent viroid, and maybe that could have tipped them off sooner than if they were if they obviously did wait and discover it later. Improving things like the fig test, like that's what we're working on this week. Just generally using the equipment we have for more than just the cannabis sex test.
And so are you guys able to, does it have to be seedlings, or are you able to test actual seeds? So say before someone had a bunch of seed and we're like, man, I'm kind of worried, and sent a fraction of the seed off to be tested, would you guys be able to actually detect and test off of that material?
Yeah. So we have some protocols for seed testing. It destroys the seeds. So there's like kind of a limited use for it. It's pretty much just like hemp breeders and hemp farmers, or people growing fields of feminized cannabis seed. They'll send us some percentage of that seed stock, and we can either test the seeds individually or like as a group and see if there's that male marker in those. And if it's not, then they can be assured that they're growing feminized seed.
Well, I meant for HLV. Are you guys able to test?
Yeah, so I mean the same theory there. Yeah.
There's the big question of herms, and I'm sure you get it all the time. How do I know if my plant's a herm?
Mm-hmm.
What's your response to that?
So we're working with medicinal genomics to figure out some kind of herm test. That is like our number one FAQ is, can this test tell me if my plants are herms? I'm not sure. It seems like pretty much all plants have the capacity to herm or show the phenotype that's not associated to their genotype. So maybe they all have the capacity to do that, but some are more likely to do that, and there might be genetic markers related to that, like susceptibility. So that's something we're looking into. We love when our customers tell us like, hey, these plants ended up herming. We then make a note of that, and we set those aside for further research with the goal of developing that herm test. It's frustrating because like a hermy plant, it doesn't always show a pollen sac and flowers on the same plant. Which leads some customers to think that their results were like wrong. And that can be kind of challenging because it's like, how do you tell a grower who's staring at phenotypically a male plant that their plant isn't a male?
It's just expressing male.
They think you're an asshole.
Right.
Calling them a liar. But we do try our best to tell them like, look, like, maybe at some point that male plant will start growing a flower, and it didn't have the Y chromosome that we associate with genetically male plants.
So that would be autosome based, right? Like at that point.
I'm not sure. So like there was some research last year or the year before that was like basically showing like the sex determining genes aren't on the Y chromosome. So, there was some debate like, well, is the Y chromosome still a reliable marker for sex? We think it is. at least for genetic males, but it's this whole thing of phenotype and genotype, like what do people recognize as males versus what are males?
Yeah.
And I think that gets into, defining things for practical effect more so than scientific validity.
Sure.
And those definitions might have appropriate places depending on who's asking. But yeah, we want a Hermy test. We want people to tell us when their plants are hermed so that we can just get more data to support the development of that test.
So on that, is there stuff that is starting to be promising yet? Like things that you're starting to notice amongst a decent group, or is there anything that you guys are kind of looking into specifically?
We hoped to have a test by now. I guess the first couple of rounds of what we thought would be a working test weren't working out as we hoped they would.
Yeah.
So no, ETA is unknown. Still working alongside medicinal genomics to get that figured out. I think there's confidence that it's going to be possible, but I think it just takes like a pretty robust data set to validate the test.
Is that because like there's different routes that it could be, that it could express with male flower versus like a clear defined thing, like or at least a little bit more clear, like a genetic sex test is?
Yeah.
I don't know if that question made sense.
No, I think it's like yeah, I mean, it's just it's like, does the plant respond to like different environmental stimuli to then change what sex it's expressing, and how sensitive is it to that stimuli? I think the stimuli is all the same. I think it's just the presence of like ethylene
or ethylene blocking.
Yeah. I don't know, Screw. It's getting into that. That's more like for like the researchers, and frankly, I'm just a guy running a lab service. I'm not like doing a whole lot of research here on site. Like I'm trained as a scientist, but the past years I've been customer service agent and manager for lab technicians. So
God, a test for being able to tell a plant that is more susceptible, like when making fem seeds, like most of us use a few different methods for reversing a plant, meaning making a female plant turn into a male to then produce pollen. And of course, it never looks like a male when you're doing it. It actually keeps the bud shape of a female. And a lot of times it clusters too hard to even drop the pollen. But I would love a test that shows plants that are more likely to drop viable pollen versus, you know what I mean? Like not drop viable pollen, because they all reverse. Almost, I shouldn't say 99.99% of plants I've seen. Like we did a 3,000 plant reversal, and I think there was 2 that didn't reverse at all, and that was hemp. which I was even surprised to see that much. But there are plants that will reverse completely and just not drop pollen. And that's been like one of the key things for a lot of breeders of fem seeds, is to try to find that method of action to know whether, am I going to waste $6,000 this run just on electricity in a room and everything that goes into it, or is this going to be a successful reversal? So it like, is there a test for more susceptibility to ethylene blocking, maybe?
You know, when you run the like strain-seq panels from medicinal genomics, they might have some more insights related to that, but I don't think there's just like a one-off test for any kind of information like that. If there were, we would like to be running it. I'm interested to understand that better. It sounds like it's just not reaching a certain development milestone that allows it to open up that pollen sac, I guess.
Well, there was a paper where they like actually looked at the pollen grain from reversals versus like an actual male, and they're all small and a lot of them malformed instead of being like nice little orbs and giant. Like all of the male pollen is huge compared to all of the reversed, and there's a lot that is just has malformed structures that make it just not work.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about that. I'm curious why that is. It makes me think of like one thing I have considered doing is like a pollen viability test.
I like that.
With you guys' thoughts on that, like basically, I think over time, like the pollen becomes unviable or like dead or something like that. And I'm pretty sure there's like these stains, like these dyes that you can apply to the pollen that will maybe attach themselves only to the dead pollen cells and not the live ones. And you can kind of get like a rough count of like, okay, 60% of what I'm looking at is dead or non-viable. And maybe you can compare that to like other samples and, you know, determine the best group of pollen to use, or maybe that could be like a screening tool for like, hey, I received pollen from a different breeder and it's not working. Maybe this is why. Or just kind of showcasing like your pollen health before you sell it or use it.
Pollen storage is so just like, even if you, from freezing it to fridge to whatever, the variability in pollen life can go from days to a few months, as best I've seen. Some people claim years, but I've never had that experience or even anywhere close to it, no matter what method of storage. But yeah, that's absolutely interesting, because I know some breeders do sell pollen or have tried, and I don't know that they've kept that model going for long because of different variability, especially in shipping too. Like if depending on what time of the year, that stuff could get roasty toasty in the mailbox, you know?
Yeah, I had a customer send me some pollen probably like 5 years ago now, and it's been in my freezer. I don't have the heart to like throw it out because it feels like offensive to that person who gifted it to me.
Yeah.
But I don't, and so I guess my plan was like maybe experiment with it on this potential test, or
that would be cool.
But it sounds like, based on your experience, there's no way that stuff's gonna work.
5 years would be a stretch. It's not like, for some reason, it's not like seed storage where like a freezer or fridge like definitely extend the life period of seeds. Like if stored correctly with no moisture in the dark, they will last, especially in the freezer, quite a long, 20, 30 years. You know, and that's just based on the experience of people in the community, how long they were able to do it, but maybe even longer. But yeah, pollen is a whole nother play, and it's been devastating at times where you go through the process of reversing a plant, but maybe you don't have the right receivers in there, and you're like, okay, I'll just use this next round, and that next round could be 2 months away. So you take it, you make sure there's no anthers or anything from the male flowers in it. Make sure you get it all perfect. Store it in freezer baggies so there's no way water crystals are getting in there. And still, it just there's been some devastating.
Yeah, I was thinking like there's surely I'm sure cannabis pollen's not completely unique, and there might be comparable plants or pollen from other plants, and maybe there's research on stability of that. But then I'm like, well, why does it even matter with tissue culture becoming more prevalent? Like, if you need to keep that male, just store it in tissue culture and then grow it out and get fresh pollen when you're ready for it.
Yeah. It's rare to see a male that does not drop that drops unviable pollen. I've never seen that yet, but I'm sure it exists. I just haven't run into that yet.
I think isn't that one of the claimed benefits of these new triploid and polyploid plant farms is that their pollen is ineffective or something, and therefore you won't have seeded out fields if it harms.
In practice, that ended up being a huge flop for the people who went in on that. Apparently, they do herm like crazy, and they just don't produce viable seed. So you still get preemie seed bud instead of non-seeded. Because it just did not work out the way that everyone was kind of, I guess, hoping it would.
And that's, to me, that's so much worse, because worst case scenario, you have seed left to run, but if you're just getting little white premature little nothing seeds in there and you're just smoking and all you hear is pop 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 pop.
Well, I imagine if you're growing for extraction, maybe it's still better than fully formed seeds because it's less energy that plant spent to grow them, and maybe that means less.
It's true.
Cannabinoid reduction.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about these polyploid triplets. Some people ask, can I test and determine that? I think that's, again, one of those things that you need actual sequencing for.
Yeah.
And frankly, I just don't know the benefits of those seeds or plants.
Back in the day, the bro science was a polyploid will make a much more potent plant with THC. But that was before anyone was doing any kind of sequencing or testing. It was just the bold claim and guys online that were kind of respected for their knowledge and breeding, just kind of pontificating a little bit more and being a lot more positive or confident in what they were saying versus any science being available to confidently say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you look at I think wheat and corn, the reason those got much more yield over the past hundreds of years was due to polyploidy, if I remember correct. So I can see why someone might think polyploidy in cannabis would result in bigger or stronger buds.
That makes sense.
But it seems like it would require a lot of research and validation, more that could be done in one person's garden, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. We had some questions here from the community. Tweet Top said, I'd like to hear more about the tests, how the tests were developed. Did they come from a different crop or industry? What are the tests actually doing?
Yeah, so the current test we have that we use for majority of our samples is was developed by Medicinal Genomics. They did a bunch of sequencing of male and female plants and found like conserved regions of the Y chromosome. So conserved regions means like this string of DNA was found in the Y chromosome of a bunch of different, strains of male plants, roughly speaking. So therefore, it's probably going to be pretty accurate on the rest of the male plants out in the world and to come. And it's, specific to the males. It's exclusive in that it's not going to pick up on female plants. So our test detects for that Y chromosome. I think it's actually like 2 areas of that Y chromosome and an area of the DNA. We call it like the internal control. That's just found in every male and female plant. So we're seeing 2 result readouts per sample. One, we expect to see like a signal in every plant, and the other result, we expect to see it only in the male plants. So that kind of 2 signal system gives us a lot of confidence that the test performed as expected, that the DNA was properly taken out of the plant before we analyzed the DNA. Prior to that, we were running a test that found like a male associated DNA sequence, but it wasn't on the Y chromosome. We stopped doing that just for practical reasons. Like that test took a little bit longer, and it was like a little more sensitive to like crossover contamination, and just wasn't as accurate as this current test we have. I think that answers that question, and it's pretty much the same for like the fig test. It's a sequence that's associated with male fig plants, and we screen for that, and we also screen for an area of the fig plant will be detected whether it's female or male. Pretty much the same for all of the different pathogen tests. It's multi-targeted in that we're screening for the pathogen target and an internal control target. And that's what generally makes it different from the like at-home testing protocols. Those at-home protocols are only testing for the target. They don't have that internal control to confirm that you're not getting a false negative result.
Here's another. This is actually a really interesting question from Loiger. How much more complicated is it to set up a testing lab compared to a hydrocarbon extraction distillation lab? Is there a scale where it would make sense for an avid plant collector to build their own lab? Closed loop extractors and short path stills are understandable with a high school level of physics. How much more extensive is the knowledge required in using mass spectrometers and other methods to detect your plant health issues?
Okay, so our core equipment is the thermal cycler, and specifically the real-time qPCR specific thermal cyclers. I mean, if you have to develop your own protocols and programs, then yeah, that's tricky and challenging. But yeah, you can buy ready to use kits, and it's just a matter of mixing different liquids basically, and just being precise on how much you're adding, and being able to scrutinize the results, which No, it's not very hard. I think if you can set up distillation, you can do this.
Yeah.
Mass spec is generally just for like your potency and safety testing labs.
Yeah.
We don't use that equipment. I think the why you wouldn't do it is just there's not like a whole lot of value out of just having a qPCR or PCR setup at home. You'd have to be testing a lot of plants to like
cost benefit ratio,
break even cost versus using a lab like ours.
I'd imagine.
We test at such a volume that our price is low, but if you're just buying like enough materials to test like 200 plants a year, like you're spending a lot of money on top of the initial equipment cost.
And this isn't something people can do with liquid chromatography paper, right? Like doing plant sex testing.
No. Like that's like those at-home THC test kits.
Yeah,
I've used those before. No, I mean, I think if you could manage to make those kits work for THC, if you can if you can read the protocol and run those kits and get the expected results out of those kits, you could probably buy reagents and buy equipment and run your own sex tests. But again, I just don't think for most people, it's going to be cost effective.
Yeah, it doesn't sound financially viable at all to try to run that from home.
Yeah. I've seen people do it. I've had former customers do it and even like offer it as a service to their buddies. And they generally don't do it for long.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Because like, you can mess something up in an instant and it's like hundreds of dollars were wasted in that one instant.
Yeah.
Just by mixing the wrong thing. So as soon as you do that, boom, like any potential cost savings are out the window.
Yep.
Yeah. And just sending it to a lab like mine is so simple. I think a lot of people they misunderstand like how easy the mail is and how reliable it is.
Yeah.
We do thousands of packages a year, insanely small loss rate. So yeah, just to me, it's the obvious way, but I'm also maybe a little biased.
No, I think it absolutely makes sense. And plus, if people don't have that experience and training in the first place, it'd be weird.
I think the way you guys set the actual kits up make it very easy to not fuck up the process, like on your end as the grower. Because I've used the sex test before, and having like the tags and everything like set up essentially so you do not mess it up.
Yeah. It's pretty rare that people mess it up, but we definitely do get sample kits submitted every now and then that just have nothing inside of it, or still have the plant tag inside of it, and it's like, this was meant to stay with your plant. I don't know how you're gonna know which result goes to which plant, but people get medicated before they take their samples, and we see some funny mistakes every now and then, but yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty foolproof.
Yeah, well, those people can't be helped. I don't, they got to charge it to the game and learn from it, because it's very easy.
Honestly, we send those test kits back to them and say, hey, try again. As long as we haven't tested it and wasted any money on the actual like process, like as many times as it takes for you to properly submit a sample, we're willing to work with you.
Do we have anything else there, Screw, in the Q&A?
Someone asked about if potency testing is in the future, and from what you were saying, no, it's not.
No, it just requires, like, with potency testing, unless we're doing it for hemp, I mean, we're handling drug material and regulated material, and that just requires like a lot more legal setup and licensing that we're not interested in doing. Like, we're kind of in this sweet spot of you know, in the cultivation cycle where we can handle that material without all these special requirements.
Okay, so we have your website up on the screen, and I wanted to make people aware. This is what it looks like. Very easy to navigate. We have where you can order tests. This is the pathogen detection area. You have your mom panel, intake panel, and full panel. And I wanted to show people what was involved. What's involved in the full panel versus the other panels?
Yeah, so the full panel, it's basically just throw in every test we have at that sample you send us. So full panel is definitely nice for you know, checking up on your mom's on some kind of schedule, or if you're receiving something that you just have no idea what the origin, how clean the origin is. Yeah, the full panel is great. Most cases, like the intake panel, which is hoplite and viroid, fusarium and pythium, those are like the most common things we see detected. So that's generally what we recommend to people. But the full panel is nice. I mean, we definitely have customers who always do the full panel for just full peace of mind that, you know, anything that could be tested for was tested and it passed all of that. And so when you receive it, you know, it's going to look something like this. It's going to be marked for which test was selected. You add your leaf samples and root samples. There's, you know, individual envelopes inside of this one kit for your specific leaves and roots. Whereas like the intake panel, that test, generally just roots are the only necessary sample type. So yeah, you know, these different panels will change which samples we like to work with and what targets we're detecting.
Okay, that's good. And we want to make sure that everyone knows, if you're listening to the show, there is a coupon code, and those watching the show can see it. But if you're not watching the show, I'm waiting for it to scroll by far enough so it pops up. The coupon code is Syndicate5, and that'll save you 5% off any purchase at farmerfreeman.com.
Yeah, you can go to our site and see like the trusted buy page, and I'm sure you'll recognize at least some of those brands and grow ups. It's been really cool seeing the different names that come through. Like, you know, I like to respect my customers' privacy as much as they can, but unless they tell me, like, yeah, sure, shout us out. But like, gosh, there's one time I was like, I saw it come in, and I'm like telling my staff, I'm like, okay, drop everything you're doing. We're focusing on this. Like, we take confidence in that everything we send out is correct, but like we were like, oh my God, we absolutely cannot mess this up.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's you get a little starstruck sometimes, like, you know, as a cannabis fan, seeing who we get to work with. like I got followed by Aryan Strain Hunter a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, this is nuts, you know. But yeah, Syndicate 5 gets you 5% off. Other savings are you can subscribe to the different tests, and that means we'll ship it to you every 1, 3, or 6 months, and that gets you another 10 or more % off. You can cancel that. Some people just subscribe, get the discount, cancel immediately. There's
Don't do that, guys.
Don't be a dick.
You know, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. Of course, we want you to stay with us, but you know, just throwing it out there that we try to price everything so that it makes sense for nearly every person's.
Yeah.
Well, you got to let the Syndicate members know that they get the 10%.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Discord.
Yeah, if you're a part of our Discord via Buy Me a Coffee, you get 10% off, and you don't have to be a dickhead and subscribe like that and unsubscribe.
Yeah.
You could just be a part of our Discord, and you get 10% off via our Freeman.
A new code, if you're watching or listening right now, a new code has been posted already in the server under announcements.
Yep. That is for July.
Well, I'm sure you'll get comments and stuff, and we could always do, you know, maybe
a follow-up
call and
absolutely
answer any other questions that pop up. Even if they were answered in this conversation, we can do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's been fun, man. I appreciate you having me on, and I feel like it's about time that we talk, you know.
Yeah, me and Screw have both been looking forward to this as well. And we really appreciate you guys working with us and going through all the bumps with us as we, you know, fought the YouTube shit as long as we could. And
I consume the audio. I subscribe on Spotify, so
awesome.
I don't watch. I just I listen to this in the car on my commute.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do like commutes and gardening listens.
Yeah, thanks so much, Matt. And
oh, dude, yeah, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolutely our pleasure.
Yeah,
I got to do the same.
It's a huge relief that what I mail out is basically worthless. Like it's all the value is tied up in the actual testing. Dude,
yeah.
If I would ship goods with value, yeah, that would be such a.
It's a nightmare.
Because it's so rare that things get lost. It's going to show up eventually. We say 2 weeks before either no scan or no delivery in case it's untracked.
Yeah.
And if it's been 2 weeks without a scan, at that point we're willing to send replacements. Otherwise, you can either pay for a new pack or you can send in samples, your own materials. But
yeah,
and almost every single time the replacements arrive the day after the original arrives or something like that. Okay, fellas.
All right. Good luck with the rest of your day, and thank you so much for your time, brother.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers.
Want to sit at the table with the Syndicate? Check out our Patreon in our link tree or description below. Our merch site is officially live. We have all sorts of shirts, hoodies, and goodies to sort you out, and shipping is super fast, and most importantly, the quality is top-notch. I've been saving old designs for years for this purpose, so please check it out, syndicategear.com. We also have an underground Syndicate Discord where we get together and solve old strain history together daily. It's an amazing community of learning away from IG, and it's an amazing resource for old catalogs and knowledge. We hope you join our union of breeders and growers. Come check it out.